Room 605 had a strange reputation. No guest had ever checked out alive. Some vanished. Others were found dead. But in 2017, what detectives uncovered behind that locked door would unravel one of the most haunting hotel mysteries in modern history. Tucked between the gray brick buildings of downtown Cincinnati, Ohio, stood the Maple Oak Inn, a fading relic of a once vibrant mid-century charm. Built in 1952, it was known for its proximity to the train station and once served as a rest stop for traveling businessmen and jazz musicians alike. But over the decades, its gleam dimmed, and it transformed into a discount stayover for weary travelers, drifters, and occasionally, those who never meant to be found. The Maple Oak Inn didn't appear in tourist brochures, but locals whispered about it in hushed tones, especially about Room 605. There were rumors. A guest in 1993 who checked in during a snowstorm, but his body was found 3 months later, skeletal and curled under the sink. A woman in 2002 who was last seen entering the room, only for her purse to be discovered, intact, years later during renovations. Each story ended the same way. No one ever checked out. Hotel staff had tried to avoid assigning the room, but the building's layout made that difficult. And so, reluctantly, Room 605 remained open until the night of February 18, 2017. It began with a man named Daniel Whitaker, 39, a traveling insurance agent from Columbus. He arrived at the Maple Oak in late Friday evening. The clerk remembered him clearly, tall, glasses, and oddly polite. He requested the quietest room away from traffic. He was given Room 605. 2 days later, housekeeping noted the "Do Not Disturb" sign remained hanging. On day 3, they alerted the front desk. When the hotel manager knocked and received no reply, he used a master key. What he found inside stopped him cold. The room was eerily silent. The TV was on, stuck on a blue screen. The window was open a crack, despite the freezing wind. Daniel's luggage was neatly arranged beside the bed. His phone and wallet were placed on the dresser. But Daniel himself was gone. There were no signs of struggle, no broken locks, no blood. The bed sheets were untouched. It was as if Daniel had vanished mid-step. Security footage, when pulled, made the situation even stranger. Daniel was seen entering the building. He checked in. He took the elevator up to the 6th floor, holding a small suitcase. He entered Room 605 at 9:47 p.m. He was never seen leaving. Not by foot, not by stairs, not even through the window. Detective Maria Alvarez was assigned the case, a seasoned officer with the Cincinnati PD. She'd handled missing persons before, but never like this. Alvarez's first move was to review internal camera footage from every hallway, stairwell, and exit. The entire system was time-stamped and synced. There were no signs Daniel left the room. He vanished without a trace. No prints, no noise complaints, nothing. Alvarez later said in a deposition, "I've worked cases that go cold after months. This one went cold in 24 hours. Crime scene techs searched the room. There was no sign of forced entry, no fingerprints other than Daniel's. Even his phone records showed no calls made after 10:01 p.m., the time he ordered room service that never arrived. Even stranger, the window, which led to a sheer 60-foot drop. If he had fallen or jumped, there would have been a body in the alley. There wasn't. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Nothing. Heat sensors. Nothing. No DNA. No hair samples. Nothing but the lingering smell of hotel-grade bleach. The deeper Alvarez dug, the stranger the room's history became. In 2002, Angela St. James, a 22-year-old waitress, was last seen entering the Maple Oak. Her body was never found, but a purse with her ID and lipstick was discovered during a ceiling repair in 605, wedged behind a tile. In 2009, a traveling preacher named Thomas Greer stayed in 605. He was found 3 days later, dead in the bathtub, eyes wide open, no visible injuries. The coroner listed cause of death as sudden cardiac arrest, but his fingernails had been torn off. Alvarez noticed a pattern. Every time someone stayed in 605, the room wasn't accessed again for at least 48 hours, either due to guests going quiet, the Do Not Disturb sign, or sheer oversight. She compiled a list of 11 such incidents since 1993. 9 missing persons. 2 unexplained deaths. That's when she ordered something drastic. A forensic architecture team. They scanned the entire 6th floor and produced a 3D model. Everything was accurate, except for one anomaly. Behind the wall adjacent to the bed in room 605 was a hollow space, roughly the size of a closet, with no door or documented access. A cavity, hidden behind drywall. Permission was granted to tear down the drywall. On March 7, 2017, Alvarez and a team of specialists entered the room. They began removing the wall paneling carefully. What they found horrified them. Inside the cavity was a narrow shaft, like a crude hidden passage, stretching down several feet and then curving left. A crawling space, no wider than 1.5 feet. It reeked of mildew, rat droppings, and age. Halfway down the shaft, they found it, a skeletal hand. Police retrieved the full remains. The bones were dry, the tissue long decayed. But forensic dental work confirmed it. Angela St. James. Further excavation revealed other remains. Partial, fragmented. DNA confirmed one belonged to Thomas Greer, another to an unidentified male. And there, wedged far into the crawl space, was Daniel Whitaker. His body was in a fetal position, eyes open, mouth slightly agape. There were scratch marks on the wall behind him. His nails were bloodied. No cause of death could be conclusively determined. It was as though they had all crawled in willingly and died trying to escape. The Maple Oak Inn was shut down within the week. Alvarez ordered a full search of the building. The shaft behind room 605 was believed to have been a forgotten ventilation system, originally used during the 1950s before modernization. But why would guests enter it? And how could they have known it existed? Forensic psychologists floated one eerie theory: suggestion and panic. If the room had poor ventilation, high EMF readings, or low-frequency sounds, infrasound, it could cause paranoia, hallucinations, and irrational behavior. Some investigators even speculated mass hysteria or environmental psychosis. Others blamed sleep paralysis, carbon monoxide leaks, or even intentional foul play by an unknown party exploiting the shaft. But the crawl space wasn't wide enough for another person to follow. There were no signs of trauma. And Daniel's hotel key card remained in the room. There was no logical reason for him to crawl into the wall. No fingerprints on the shaft's entrance. No sign of force. Just that same haunting detail. No one ever checked out. The Maple Oak Inn was condemned and demolished by late 2018. By then, the case had drawn national attention. Documentaries, YouTube exposés, and podcasts flooded the internet. Paranormal groups visited the site. Reddit threads exploded with theories. Detective Alvarez eventually retired, but never forgot the case. In an interview, she said, "I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in fear. And whatever happened in room 605, it made people terrified enough to crawl into the walls. That kind of fear doesn't come from nowhere." The final police report listed Daniel Whitaker's cause of death as undetermined. Angela St. James and Thomas Greer were buried, their families finally receiving closure. But that wasn't the end. In 2020, during construction on the hotel's replacement, a luxury condo tower, a contractor unearthed a sealed room beneath the foundation. Inside was an old, rusted maintenance access, covered in claw marks. There were no remains, but on the wall, scratched faintly into brick, were the words, "Don't stay in 605. Some rooms carry a presence, a shadow in the wallpaper, a hum in the air. You can't see it, can't touch it, but you feel it. Room 605 of the Maple Oak Inn was one of those places. It wasn't the wallpaper. It wasn't the creaky floorboards. It wasn't the shaft in the wall. It was something else. Something in the room. Something that made sane people crawl into darkness and never return. And while the hotel is long gone and room 605 is now buried under steel and concrete, one thing remains true. No one ever checked out.